I have thoughts, and they're spinning so fast I couldn't possibly write them or type them, so I'm just gonna say them. So I haven't asked my kids to do chores in almost two and a half years now, and part of that was healing on both of our ends. Um, when I was married, discipline was enforced on the kids through chores, in the sense that like they were expected to do a lot of home maintenance, and they were under 9 at the time, 9 and 7 when we left, so it was about 5 years when they were little. And the way that it worked out was their value was definitely based on how obedient, subservient, compliant, productive they could be. Like in that paradigm, that's where their value was. And if they didn't add up to the standard, they were devalued, they were criticized, to the point where I saw the magic in my kids' eyes dwindle to nothingness. So when I left, I didn't make them do chores. Part of it was because I didn't have the mental capacity for the back and forth of enforcing chores. So I stopped because I didn't want to fight with my kids anymore, because we were all healing and we needed peace. So I prioritized the peace over the need to conform to chores. So what that meant was I've done all the cleaning in the house for 2.5 years. On occasion, they will just on their own clean something, but honestly, it's probably like 4 or 5 times a year at this point. And I'm just really grateful when they do, because like I said, I haven't asked them. And the other part of that is, if I do ask them to do something, they do it. They don't argue, because they know I haven't asked them to do anything for a long time. So taking out the trash is not a big deal. Washing the dishes today is not a big deal. Cleaning, you know what I mean? So it's not like they're spoiled, rotten, don't know how to, it's nothing like that. The other piece of this is that the healing on my end was redeveloping my relationship with household maintenance. So I grew up with chores as a kid, and I hated chores. And so when I got into relationships with people, I very much demanded a 50-50 household maintenance type dynamic, in the sense that I expected them to, if I cook, you clean. We rotate, who cleans the bathroom, whatever. But like, it should be a 50-50 split energy-wise on household maintenance. And when they didn't do that, because none of them ever lived up to that. And so when they didn't live up to that, I developed resentment for it. And so I realized at some point, I've never gone very long being 100% responsible for the household maintenance. So I needed to see what that felt like, to just do it and not expect anyone else to do it. I feel like I can't expect anyone else to be fully responsible if I can't be fully responsible. Another part of that is just going back and healing that wound within myself of, this is a sign of productivity, this is a sign of your value, because I've been projecting that onto other people and then using it against them. And so I wanted to take a step back. So we've been in this house for 6 months now, and every time I wash the dishes or clean up, it's kind of like, it's a healing moment for me. I deserve to live in a clean space. I am doing something to honor my worth. I feel good when my kitchen is clean. I feel motivated to cook. I love to cook, but I feel very unmotivated when the kitchen is dirty. I feel very motivated when it's clean. So how about we do this thing so that you can feel inspired and feel good and participate in an activity that gives you all the dopamine, right? Cleaning my living room has become a relaxing experience, because sitting in my clean living room is very calming to my nervous system. I will sit for hours in silence in a clean living room, looking at, because I've cultivated corners of like things that interest my eye, So I can sit in my living room for hours and just it be like a calm, meditative space. And so it has to be clean for that, right? So I'm looking at home maintenance as more of self-care rather than obligation or duty. It has nothing to do with my value as a person. And so today it finally clicked, like, now that I understand this for myself, what am I trying to pass on to my kids? Because now that I've kind of worked through this area myself, and not to say it's perfect, doesn't mean my home is clean all the time. Absolutely not. But I also don't put that on anybody else's shoulders. So what am I passing on to my kids? What am I trying to teach my kids? People will say, oh, well, your kids need to have chores to learn independence, and you need to have chores to learn to, whatever. What I want my kids to learn is to be independent and to have compassion. So on the one hand, I want my kids to be able to function in the home. I want them to know how to use everything. I want them to know how to be safe with everything. I want them to know how to prepare food so they can feed themselves so all their needs are met. And as they get older, they'll learn how to do like the financial pieces of all of that. But at this point, it's the functionality. They should be fully independent within the home. That's important for just growing into a young adult and an adult, their ability to navigate the world. The other piece of that is, well, going back to that, because the other day my son, my 12-year-old, said he went all day without eating because there was no food in the house, which wasn't true at all. And I had been home and prepared 3 meals. So it's not like there was no food in the house. He didn't want the food that was available. But because he was complaining about, he was in pain, his stomach was hurting. And I was like, this is a clear sign that we need to work on independence. You should never feel so dependent that you are suffering when you could do for yourself. So that was an eye-opening conversation. I didn't punish him. I didn't do anything. There was nothing. And I actually came home and he had cleaned the entire kitchen and it was perfectly spotless. This is what I mean. Like every once in a while they will. But he knows I'm motivated to cook when the kitchen is clean. So that, he did what he needed to do to get what he wanted, and that's okay. So we need to work on independence. Fair. The next piece is compassion. So there are days when the kitchen gets backed up and we can't find any spoons, or because I don't have a lot of extras of things. Like I'm a minimalist, so we have enough spoons for everyone in the house plus one. We have enough bowls for everyone in the house plus one. That's it. I don't keep spares of much. So when the dishes get backed up, literally we can't have a meal together because there's not enough of utensils or bowls or whatever. And so there are times when the trash will build up because I just don't have the energy. When you talk about spoons, how many spoons do you have in a day? There are some days when I have all the spoons and there are other days when I have none. So this isn't to say I've figured out how to have my home clean all the time. No. So on the compassion piece, I want my kids to be able to look around and say, you know what? I see someone struggling to keep up. I know what kept up is, right? So when I look around and I see that this person isn't able to do their best, I want to step in and help, not punish, not judge or criticize, but just be compassionate and say, you know what, there's something I can do to help this person or help the situation. And so by not making it obligatory, they're not doing chores because they have to, because if they don't, they'll be punished. Their privileges will be taken away. You know what I mean? I want them to look around and say, this needs to be done. And clearly someone needs help getting it done. So let me step in and chip in, where I can. That's the type of attitude I want my kids to have about home maintenance. One, that they're independent, and the other, that they have compassion for people around them and they're willing to step in and help. So no, we don't have chores. I'm not going to have chores, but we are going to work on independence and compassion. And it's been really nice to work on that within myself.